Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the I Smell a Rat event, in which the Wererat is added to the game. So let's get into that. As far as the troop itself, it is pretty bad. It does come in with green, red arcanes if you need to stock up on them, but as far as the troop, it's basically a lycanthropy boost ratio related troop. And that it deals some damage based on about half its magic, and it then does a damage boosted by lycanthropy gems. So for every single lycanthropy gem on the board, it will end up doing 10 additional damage. This comes out to be a pretty low amount of damage, even if you had like 5 lycanthropy gems on the board, which is a pretty sizable amount. That would only be 50 additional damage, in this case 74, so pretty bad. Also, the only location where this could even potentially be good, won't really be able to use it much either, is course Arena. However, there aren't really too many ways to do lycanthropy off of abilities, and to get the chance that you would actually draft it is very unlikely, since a good majority of how lycanthropy gets applied, especially once the lycanthropy gems no longer just come during the season off the sky from purples. But there's going to be very few ways, because traits are normally where quite a few of them come from, and well, you can't do traits in Arena. So overall, it's going to be bad in Arena pretty much. It's going to be bad outside of Arena. It's bad everywhere. But yeah, it's basically a useless troop that you would only get for upgrading purposes. That is pretty much the bottom line there. Anyways, it does bring Miss of Scales up a star, though, if nothing else. I believe it was 21 before, so now it is 22, which makes sense. It does go up by 1 when we get 1 additional troop. It's not really too relevant, though. I do believe that is tribute chance, if nothing else, so that's nice and shiny. Anyways, and if nothing else, it's also easier to reach 10 star and 20 star. Now that has more kingdoms, which I believe is a attack bonus. No, armor bonus. But anyways, we do have 10% to all Mr. Scales and 10% to all Wild Folk. Normally, I don't really mention these much these days because it's normally pretty irrelevant. However, this is somewhat relevant because the Tuesday faction basically gets 20% on all troops. So great week to go do Dark Pits faction if you want to go do that tomorrow on Tuesday, because you're going to have 20% additional stats for basically the entire team that you do for Pure faction. So it's going to be even easier than normal. Also, you get some souls when you use the Wererat. However, it's better just to use a real soul farming team and not bother putting that into your team. As far as the event key drop table, of course, it is restricted to Mist of Scales, which for the most part makes it a good skip week if you are trying to save on event keys. There's nothing really particularly good that you'd want to get. Maybe if you have 0 copies of Merilith, you might want to throw like 10 event keys just to get a copy of Merilith or something like that. But aside from that, unless you really just need something here for completionist sake, or to go and get it upgraded to get the kingdom upgrade, those are pretty much the only instances you would bother with. Basically, every single thing you see here is available, though, aside from the 4 Dark Pits troops, but none of them are substantial enough that it's a great week just to skip. Vinaxia, Tapon, though Tapon has a replacement with Summer Queen, or whatever her name is, but the other troop that does brown to red kind of made that irrelevant. So really, the only viable things here are Vinaxia and Merilith, and that's pretty much the full list as far as what can be used. Aureali does have the best poison in the game, but that's a pretty low bar since that is one of the worst status effects. It's actually so bad that there are some instances where being poisoned is actually a positive status effect and not a negative one, because if there's any trait on the troop that triggers something based on taking HP damage, well, that's doing HP damage every other turn for only 1 damage. So it can actually be a beneficial trait. I'm actually surprised no troop uses it as a beneficial trait yet, poisoning the whole team. It'd be a very cool mechanic, since there are quite a few that benefit from being damaged every single turn. Anyways, as far as guild-related events, we do have Guild Wars this week, so make sure to set up your defend teams and get your stats and everything in, because red Guild Wars starting tomorrow, or a different color if you're on a different platform. But PC Mobile, it's red. It's one of the few things that's not uniform across the platforms either, for whatever reason. Guild Wars is a different color for every platform, except PC Mobile. Anyways, as far as the ward event, we do have extra spell damage, so that's going to be pretty solid as far as being able to get it done. Spell damage is definitely the most ideal one to be getting every single week. We don't really have too many options. It's mostly dismissed skills, and as we kind of already went over with event keys, it is a pretty bad drop table, so we do not have much to work with. As far as weapons, if you're going to be using something, it's available in Soulforge this week, but Menusa's Tome is probably going to be a good utility. This particular one doesn't end up using the weapon. I believe the other one does, with the Tome. But overall, not too much to choose from, troops or weapons. So a little bit of a clunky week, but if nothing else, we have spell damage, Vinaxia just true damage. It can loop with itself and be good to go. It's not a pure loop, it's not like Truffle or even Beatrix for that matter, but it'll get the job done enough to do the event. So there's that going for it at least. As far as the scoring for this event, it is very, very strange. So basically, all 3 of the ultra rares are worth the most, and then it goes rarity order. So for whatever reason, ultra rares are always the first one you take, which is normally the inverse of what you would do, but the ultra rares are the highest rooms as far as value. Then it goes Sledge Paw, which is one of the legends, then X Raider, which is one of the other legends, and then the Hex Rat. However, if you just make sure to always do the ultra rares first, and then the legends and the epics, you should be fine. But yeah, for whatever reason, ultra rares are the highest room. So with this particular setup right here, we would do the ultra rare, we would do the legends, and then hope another ultra rare appears after doing those 2 battles. And just keep doing the ultra rares, legends second priority, epics lowest priority. It is very weird, but that is the scoring for this event. Anyways, as far as things that we got going on this week, we got ourselves the quite a few things actually. Dark Pits. We have the Dark Pits faction going on tomorrow. Has 20% stats, so it should be pretty easy if you want to get it done. Now would be the time to get it done. Even if you want to attempt it without potions, you might be able to, given that it has 20% additional stats this week. So worth considering, both with or without potions. Try it, I guess, maybe without potions prior, and then otherwise just do it with potions tomorrow. But anyways, Wednesday we're getting the 4th of July Independence Day pet for America. We got the Liberty Bell this time around. Make sure to get it because this will not be available for another year or 2 if you don't end up getting it on Wednesday. So definitely make sure to get that thing. It is cosmetic, so it's not too big a deal, but still always good to make sure to get them just in case. Thursday we got Assassin class event. Assassin's a little bit of an interesting gimmick in that it has multiple different ways to automatically kill the last enemy, between the 7% chance to kill every single time it gets a kill, as well as having a 10% chance to kill every single time it takes a skull. It is an extremely RNG based hero class that is really fun to use, but generally is not viable, just because it has so many RNG factors between its dodge chance, its insta-kill chance, and its other insta-kill chance. So it can sometimes be insanely good, but its average is a little bit bad just because its consistency is very low due to it having to roll 20%, a 10%, and a 7% to really be effective at doing anything. So very RNG based hero class that is normally too inconsistent to bother using. And aside from that, Friday we're going to be having a Dragon's Claw raid event. We're also going to be getting a new Dragon's Claw weapon, which might be somewhat okay, but we got that going on. Anyways, aside from that, as far as Soulforge, pretty bad Soulforge. It's actually a pure skip this week. Soulforge and event keys, one of the few weeks where every single thing has been useless. The only thing that's somewhat viable here is Queen Isabel, though it's a legend, so I would just pass. Tesla's one of the only few legends worth going for, and while Queen Isabel is usable, not really one I'd bothering with. But yeah, all 4 of the mythics, really bad. The other legends, not really that enticing either. I would just skip everything. Even Autumn Imp, even though Autumn Imp is one of those seasonal ones that don't come around too often. August and September, I believe it is when it's in the drop table. So you could just get it in about a month or so, just by going for a legend at the beginning of August, and hope you get it. So there's not really much of a need to get it from Soulforge now, since you'll probably be able to get it in about a month or 2 just from the trying to get the mythics. So definitely would pass on that, and basically pass on the entirety of the Soulforge. As far as weapons, if you're going to craft anything this week in Soulforge, it's probably Medusa Tome. It's not like super meta, you'd barely ever touch it, but again, as more Nagas come into the game, and as more, or I should say Mista Scales, though most Mista Scales are Nagas, but as more Mista Scales come into the game, it ends up getting a little bit of a better value. I believe there's one of them for Nagas here too. Yeah, there's the other one over here that ends up doing red-green, which in some situations could end up being a little bit better. Actually, green ends up feeding into itself. Never mind, that one actually would be quite a bit better, wouldn't it? Can we actually use that for the event too? That might actually be the better one for the event. Hold up. Hold up. Not for that team, but for the team I didn't show yet. Well, this one I think I ended up using because it covers yellow. Oh no, it can work either way. Whichever one you want to use. But yeah, the fact that the thing feeds into itself, I don't know, we'll show it with that as well. Let's see. We'll put that in there. But yeah, it feeds green into itself. It's one of only 2 or 3 of the weapons that do that. The other really noteworthy one is Stone Slicer, I believe it was, that ends up doing it. If I'm not mistaken. Wasn't it Stone Slicer? Yes, it creates purple and brown, with one of its colors being purple. Very few of these double converting weapons do that, or the double gem creating weapons. However, there are a few, and this is one of those few, so yes, that one's actually a little bit more viable. So yeah, if you're going to get something, end up getting the one that feeds mana into itself. I almost forgot that was a mechanic. Very few of them have it, though. That is one of them. Anyways, as far as other things that we have, let's go over all the teams, which we kind of already just showed with another part of it. But as far as the world event, the main one I'm going to be using is double Venoxia into Marilith into Ariali. That's pretty much the game plan here. And I guess alternatively, if you want to use that weapon, you could end up putting the Naga weapon there. And that would end up being only 2 Nagas though, or technically 3 if you use Assassin, so you can end up doing that. Big issue with that is you would have to use Assassin Hero class for your hero to count as Naga, and the Vinaxia itself does not count as a Naga. So you could go with that, though I believe just double Vinaxia for the double true damage into itself will probably be a little bit better. And of course the blue feeds into Uriali, and Uriali does her thing. But alternatively, you could do the weapon. Anyways. As far as other things, of course, we got the double Marilith. I did have to use 1 legend here just because, while I generally try not to for the cheaper team, there really isn't much you could do for damage source unless you want to use like a Lamia and use her random chance to really do the damage. You're basically going to have to go with some kind of legend or mythic as your damage source. And in this particular instance, we end up doing it with a Basilisk. Of course, you could also end up going down the Vinaxia route if you so choose and have the Mariliths there. Or if you have a bunch of Vinaxias, you can still go just spam Vinaxia and you don't even need to use the mythic of Riali, though it does allow you to use the blue. Or you could even replace out one of the Mariliths with a Vinaxia if you happen to have a Vinaxia. And if you truly needed to, you could replace a Basilisk with like a 3rd Marilith or some kind of other damage source there, if you need something that is not a legend. But this is one of those events where you're probably going to need a legend for it, but if nothing else, they're in the event queue drop table. Anyways, aside from that, we do have ourselves the green-brown restriction as far as the faction for tomorrow. You can end up just running a pretty standard roaming team all the way. Not the best version of it, but it will get the job done as far as getting through. Based on those restrictions, you can also do a pretty optimal Iron Gut team and end up doing the pretty standard build of that. Go like Mountain Crusher, Apothecary, Iron Gut, one other option, be good to go. As far as pure faction, this is probably the best time to be doing it because as I mentioned earlier, 20%, 20%, 20%, and I believe the other one is 20%, though you wouldn't really bother using it. But basically, the main premise when doing pure faction for Dark Pits is you use this guy as a tank, but don't cast him. His ability is very extremely bad, but you use him for the fact that he has 25% score reduction and 6 life gain per turn, and both of these do stack, so you do have 2 25% score reductions if you have the potions, and you do have 9 regen if you have the regen potion, and those do stack, though the amount of protection from the armor is like a 30-something%, because they stack, they don't stack fully. It's not 50%, it'd be like a 30-something%, but it still protects you for more, nonetheless, because it does 25%, and then there's 25% of that 25% of the one that got reduced of the number. But the 9 regen is still the full 9 regen. But yeah, you basically use him as a tank. He has 20% extra stats, so it'll be a little bit less killable, and you basically never use his ability. The Plague Wererat you use for mana accumulation. He does have a little bit of extra effects as well, but you're basically just using him as your mana accumulator. He also covers 2 colors that the others don't. And Hexrat you just keep casting on first slot. It hits 1 enemy and all below, so obviously generally you want to be hitting it on first slot. The one exception is it does get to do double damage if they are cursed, if I'm not mistaken. Enemy is cursed, deal double, yeah. So if they're cursed, it does get to do double. However, there isn't really a viable way of curse with this team other than when this thing does like a skull, and it's generally not worth doing this thing's ability just to curse, because oddly enough, even though I think all 3 of the other ones have curse on skull, this one does not, which is kind of weird because it's actually the tank that would want to have it. If any of them were to have it, this would probably be the most useful one to have it, and it doesn't, so it doesn't make much sense there. But it is the way it is, and you basically just keep spamming Hexrat AoE until you win. Pretty standard kind of win. Just a tank up front, mana accumulator, and full AoE into the win, and just spam it until you win. That is the premise. Pretty similar premise to quite a few other factions. Anyways, as far as the Assassin class event, the restriction is Nagas from Mrs. Scale, so you do specifically have to be using Nagas. Hero class can be whatever, of course. Basically, you'd want to go with either Summer's Fury or Dawnbringer or something similar. Have a bunch of Marilith behind it. It gives extra red. You just go crazy with red, and then you win. That's pretty much the game plan here. The Summer's Fury is the cheapest option that you can end up going for because you just get it from leveling up your hero. The most expensive, of course, would be something like a Dawnbringer if you want to go down that route. And as far as the Friday event, we will have access to the other weapon. However, generally when it goes to raid, using Mang into the raid troop tends to be the way to go. And this is pretty much what you end up being able to do for this. You just throw down Mang onto the boss and you gain a bunch of attack that will allow you to kill everything else. You use the Lady Garnita, which does extra damage to the boss through its ability 5 times if you have it fully maxed. And that will end up killing out the boss in most situations, particularly through a lot of the earlier battles where you do a Mang, you throw down the boss slaying troop, and then boom, it's dead. Egg Thief is just here for extra mana accumulation and for resummon in case somehow your entire team dies. If you have an Egg Thief on your team with Stealthy, you're pretty much going to be invincible because Ugoth is generally only going to be killing 1 at a time. So even if you're falling behind, you'll still be able to get baby dragons, or dragon eggs, and then baby dragons, and then those baby dragons become other dragons, and then you would slowly win, but you would indeed win. She also does Stealthy, so she can't be targeted directly. And we have this thing, which is mostly just to give half mana start to the other 2, because we can use Dragon Guard and half mana start because it counts as a dragon. dragon. And of course, the raid troop, which doesn't currently have a 50% start, would allow it to have a 50% start of the dragon thing. Also gives a light storm, but that's actually pretty irrelevant and actually gets in the way. And it also has a chance of resummoning. However, given that your egg thief has stealthy, it is very unlikely that your egg thief will die prior to your Sensia, unless they somehow do a ridiculously high amount of skull damage to you. But if it really became a factor, Sensia does have a summon, and then has a mana accumulation if that summon is still alive. But generally, you're going to be doing most of it off of Egg Thief if you're looking to catch up. And most of your damage, obviously, is coming from Mang Skulls. And a little bit of a weird, clunky one. This is mostly because a lot of the options for dragons are AoEs from Dragon's Claw. And there's just not much you can really use for proper damage when it's upscaling. So the only thing you really have is just use a Mang and kind of cheese it with everything else. You don't even have a Skull Spammer in that kingdom. So a little bit of a restricted weekend as far as the raid event, but still very much doable. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for this video. Of course, tonight we'll be going over all of the Chapter 6 tasks for the week, as well as every single other night this week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be doing the Guild Wars for every single color, and we have Red Guild Wars tomorrow, and we'll go from there. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful week. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below, and I'll catch all of you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.